Hey everyone, this is Six Path Weeb, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into part 3 of our ongoing fanfic series, What If Naruko Balanced Kurama's Yin and Yang? Get ready for more twists, deeper character dynamics, and a fresh perspective on the Naruto universe. Disclaimer, this content is created purely for entertainment and discussion. I do not own any of the anime footage featured in this video. All rights and credits go to their original creators and copyright holders. Let's get started. Demonic changes, kid-friendly rewrite. Naruko was still slightly unsettled. Sure, some might call her overly sensitive, but she had just gone through a harrowing experience, and she couldn't help the occasional shiver, not that she'd ever let anyone see it. Ahaha, you're still a little jumpy, aren't you? Kurama teased from within, clearly enjoying the rare chance to poke fun. The fox spirit hadn't been this entertained since his early days of watching the world unfold. But the teasing was beginning to wear thin. Naruko was getting tired of it. And it was all because of him, well, her teammate Sasuke. If Sasuke had just followed instructions, none of this mess would have happened, and Naruko wouldn't be this shaken. Even Kakashi-sensei was glancing over at her now and then with an unusual seriousness. Still, she reminded herself she was stronger than this. So what if things got intense back there? She made it through just fine. There was no reason to dwell on it. With a deep breath, Naruko calmed her nerves, regaining her composure. By now, they had made it past the large forest surrounding the Hidden Leaf village, arriving at a small hill that overlooked a quiet port town. They were walking leisurely. What a trained shinobi could cover in 5 minutes was taking them nearly half an hour. The sky was dimming, and the first glow of the moon appeared opposite the setting sun. Kazuna, their client, mentioned that an old friend would help ferry them across the water to the land of waves. But before they could continue, Kakashi made a surprising suggestion. Let's have dinner in this lovely town first, shall we, Kazuna-san? Eh? Sure, but why now? Kazuna asked, slightly puzzled but agreeable. We shinobi need proper nourishment if we want to function at full capacity, Kakashi replied with a light-hearted tone and a signature smile. Kazuna still looked confused, but he noticed the 3 young ninjas seemed equally curious, so he let it go. They entered what seemed like a small, quiet diner, though it looked more like an old-fashioned tea house than a modern restaurant. A kind hostess quickly welcomed them and took their orders. As they settled in and began to eat, Kakashi's demeanor shifted to something more serious. Team, let me be direct with you. Right now, we're facing a challenge that's above your current training level. He held up a hand to stop the oncoming objections. It's not that you aren't capable. It's not even just the strength of our possible opponent, although I suspect they may be as skilled as a jounin. He glanced at Naruko and Sasuke. What's more dangerous is your teamwork, or the lack of it. I've noticed a troubling tendency between the two of you, as though one thinks they can command the other. Let me be clear, I am your leader. You follow my instructions. He paused to let his words sink in. Naruko, Sasuke, stay alert and watch for potential threats. Sakura, your role is support. If either of them is struggling, assist without hesitation. You've all shown promise during training. Don't forget what you've learned when it counts. Then he pointed toward the exit. But above all else, our client's safety comes first. Your job is to protect Kazuna-san. I'll handle any major threats. Are we clear? Yes, sensei. All 3 replied. Kakashi nodded, then promptly stood and, in true ninja fashion, vanished in a flash, leaving the young trio to pay the bill. Crossing to the land of waves. A thickening mist followed Team 7 as they traveled by boat toward the land of waves. The wooden vessel creaked now and then, each sound amplifying the tension in the air. The mood felt straight out of a ghost story. Everyone was quiet, alert, and on edge. The large, unfinished bridge soon came into view, a magnificent construction project that spanned the ocean. Naruko stared in awe. You built all that? She asked Kazuna, amazed. Of course. He replied proudly. Isn't it beautiful? I wouldn't have believed it if I wasn't seeing it, Sakura whispered, her tone full of disbelief. Everyone looked at her, surprised by her honesty. Sakura blushed. What? I meant it in a good way. Suddenly, Naruko's senses went on high alert. Look out, she shouted. A massive wave approached, towering like a mountain. The boat wouldn't withstand the impact. Kakashi evaluated their options quickly, using chakra to shield them would be too risky. But just then, poof! 5 Naruko clones sprang to life. Sensei! I'll get everyone across. You've got this, right? Naruko grinned, her energy unwavering. Her clones grabbed Sakura, Sasuke, Tazuna, and the boatman, launching into motion. Kakashi followed right behind, visibly relieved. The wave crashed, consuming the boat entirely, but the team had already landed safely on the water, sprinting the final stretch to the shore. As they skidded to a halt on solid ground, Naruko frowned, sensing something was off. She tried to locate their opponent with her chakra perception, but found nothing. Kakashi and Naruko moved ahead cautiously into the misty woods, leaving the others to regroup. Sasuke and Sakura got back into formation, flanking Tazuna with the help of a remaining Naruko clone. Kakashi turned back. Naruko, go protect the group. I'll take care of this. Naruko frowned, but complied, and with a poof, 4 clones vanished. She rejoined the team, reassuming her position at Tazuna's side. What just happened? Sasuke asked. I saved you. Don't make a big deal about it, Naruko said with a smirk. Sasuke looked away, annoyed. Sakura whispered a soft, thank you, just loud enough for one of the clones to hear. The clone smiled gently in return, making Sakura blush. But the mist kept growing thicker. Team, Kakashi called out, voice tense. This is enemy territory now. Stay sharp. Suddenly, he dove to the ground. Get down. They all hit the deck, though Sakura nearly missed the cue. A massive sword flew toward them, spinning in the air. Naruko reached for a kunai and attempted to enhance it with wind chakra, but just then, her clone leapt forward and deflected the weapon, disappearing with a poof. The massive sword embedded itself into a nearby tree, taking only a single pink hair with it. A figure appeared atop the weapon, a tall man with bandaged features and a slashed forehead protector from the village hidden in the mist. A rogue ninja. Kakashi muttered. Naruko eyed him curiously. Are you one of the 7 ninja swordsmen? Zabuza nodded, clearly unimpressed. Then I was kinda right. Naruko grinned. Enough talking. Give me the builder, and no one has to get hurt, Zabuza said coldly. Sorry, Zabuza Momochi, Kakashi replied firmly. Protecting Tazuna-san is our mission. With a hand sign, Zabuza vanished into the fog. Ninja art, hidden mist jutsu. Then, a chilling silence fell, and with it came a powerful pressure that froze the Genon in place. 8 targets. Zabuza's voice echoed through the mist. Where should I aim first? Even the confident Sasuke looked shaken. Sakura was paralyzed. Naruko trembled, but clenched her fists. Don't worry. I'm here, Kurama said gently from within. Get it together. Kakashi added firmly. The Genon snapped back to reality, reforming their protective ring around Tazuna. Kakashi lifted his forehead protector, revealing his Sharingan eye. Stay alert. Zabuza is a master of silent movement. He'll strike without warning. Suddenly, a shadow loomed in front of Naruko. Before it could reach her, the image dissolved into smoke, another clone. From behind Tazuna, the real Naruko smirked. Shadow clones really come in handy. Meanwhile, Zabuza fell for Kakashi's decoy. A kunai met water, another clone. But now the real Kakashi emerged behind Zabuza, kunai in hand. I've got you now. Zabuza twisted and tried to counter with his massive sword, slicing Kakashi's arm, only to reveal Kakashi had also used a water clone. The two continued their strategic duel, while Zabuza's eyes momentarily flicked to the Genon. That blonde girl. He muttered, visibly irritated. The source of the disruption was, of course, Naruko, who was attempting a technique she had never tried before, sending gusts of wind chakra outward in an effort to clear the dense, persistent fog that obscured her team's vision. Her efforts had yet to succeed, primarily because Zabuza, their skilled opponent, was actively maintaining the mist with focused intent. Well, I suppose subtlety was never my style, Zabuza commented with a smirk as he released his hold on the mist. Almost immediately, the swirling fog dispersed under Naruko's chakra-infused gusts, revealing her determined expression. Meanwhile, Kakashi took advantage of the momentary shift in terrain visibility. Without hesitation, he disappeared underground, leaving his opponent puzzled and searching. However, Zabuza had anticipated some sort of surprise. As Kakashi erupted from beneath the ground, he immediately backflipped away with agility, forming hand seals mid-air. His cheeks expanded slightly as he prepared a jutsu. In swift succession, he expelled 2 water spheres at Zabuza. Kakashi, however, nimbly avoided them, veering to the right while forming another sequence of familiar hand signs. Fire style, great fireball jutsu. He announced, projecting a large fireball forward. Behind it, he hurled 2 kunai infused with lightning chakra. Zabuza, reacting quickly, raised a wall of water to counter the fire technique. The water barrier easily extinguished the flames, producing a thick cloud of steam. However, the real surprise came when the lightning-charged kunai made contact with the watery wall, sending out a crackling discharge that danced across the air, momentarily stunning Zabuza and causing his eyes to widen in surprise. From behind the veil of steam, Zabuza reappeared, visibly affected by the electricity but still ready to continue the fight. Kakashi gave a thoughtful sigh. "That wasn't enough to stop someone of your caliber, was it?" he said, staying calm. Naruko, observing the situation carefully, utilized a genjutsu. The illusion caused Zabuza to see Kakashi flanking him, mirroring his own movements and forming the exact same hand signs. "What is this? Are you copying me?" Zabuza shouted in confusion, misled by the illusion. The real Kakashi, realizing what Naruko had done, smirked slightly as he prepared to release his technique. Zabuza, still under the illusion, reacted defensively, targeting the false Kakashi with a massive water dragon technique. The fierce elemental force surged forward, demolishing part of the forest. However, his premature celebration was short-lived. The real Kakashi summoned his own water dragon, identical in power and form, directing it straight toward Zabuza. The force swept Zabuza off his feet, tossing him to the ground in a powerful surge of water. He landed hard, visibly disoriented. "Was that an illusion?" he muttered, still unable to grasp what had happened. "Yes," Kakashi replied smoothly. "My talented student was behind it. Impressive, right?" Before he could proceed further, several small needles struck Zabuza's neck with precise timing, causing him to fall unconscious. A figure in a hunter-nin mask, wearing the unmistakable uniform of the Hidden Mist Village, appeared and stopped Kakashi's next move. "Thank you, Shinobi of the Leaf. I will take care of this matter from here," the masked figure said in an excessively courteous tone. "You're a hunter-nin from the mist?" Kakashi asked, a hint of skepticism in his voice. The masked shinobi simply nodded, bowed respectfully, and vanished into the nearby waters, leaving no trace behind. "Wait!" Kakashi called after them, but the figure was already gone. "Well, that was anticlimactic," Kakashi murmured to himself. He briefly wondered whether the body should have been dealt with differently, but considering the mist's current political complexities, he dismissed the thought. He covered his Sharingan to conserve energy. "Good work, team," Kakashi said with a tired but cheerful tone. "You handled that quite well. Tazuna-san, would you kindly guide us to your home?" Tazuna nodded, still visibly shaken. Though he didn't speak, his uneasy expression told enough. No one mentioned the awkward tension, aside from a couple of grimaces from Sasuke and Naruko. They resumed their journey. Sasuke remained frustrated with himself, Sakura was simply grateful they were safe, and Naruko was satisfied with her contribution to the mission. She even began mentally pestering Kurama, the fox spirit within her, who could only respond with an exasperated sigh. Later at Tazuna's home. Though not fully drained, Kakashi felt fatigue settling in. After being warmly welcomed into Tazuna's home by his kind daughter Tsunami, he politely excused himself and retired early, silently wishing he could have spoken more with their gracious host. Tsunami, relieved her father was safe, quickly prepared a delicious homemade meal for the team. The Genin ate heartily, though Sasuke remained quiet, clearly brooding over the day's events. "If I couldn't handle that swordsman, how will I ever grow stronger?" he thought, clenching his fists as frustration simmered beneath the surface. Naruko, on the other hand, sincerely thanked Tsunami for the food, eyes sparkling with appreciation. Having grown up on simple fare like instant ramen, this meal felt like a treasure. Tsunami smiled warmly at Naruko's enthusiasm and guided them to their rooms. Soon after, the three Genin were fast asleep on their futons, Sasuke lost in thought, Sakura quietly concerned, and Naruko peacefully content. The next morning. At dawn, Kakashi finally collected his thoughts. One troubling detail lingered, that masked shinobi was highly unlikely to be a genuine Mist Hunter Nin. Given Mist's rigid protocols, the failure to properly secure the body was a major red flag. He narrowed it down, either it was a third party pretending to be a Hunter Nin or someone deliberately working with Zabuza. The lack of body disposal implied deception. Could that masked figure be an ally in disguise? Kakashi wondered. He shook his head to clear his thoughts, then stepped out and began waking his students. Their reactions varied, some startled, others groggy, and a few expressing mild irritation, but Kakashi kept a neutral expression. I need your attention. Zabuza is still alive. The room fell silent. Then, as one. What? Kakashi calmly repeated, yes, I'm quite certain. Naruko, managing to compose herself, asked, why do you believe that, Kakashi-sensei? That hunter nin. It should have followed protocol, which includes fully eliminating the target to protect village secrets, he explained. Zabuza was a skilled swordsman, not someone carrying sensitive clan techniques. There was no reason not to dispose of the body. This leads me to believe the masked individual was not a true hunter nin, but rather an accomplice. Zabuza wasn't eliminated, just placed in a temporary state of unconsciousness. He paused, allowing the information to sink in. I estimate we have about a week, maybe a few days more, before Zabuza returns. In that time, I'm going to train you. Finally, Sasuke muttered, then looked around, slightly embarrassed. Naruko laughed, and even Sakura giggled. Kakashi offered a gentle smile. All right, let's get some breakfast, and then we're heading into the woods, he declared, mentally noting he'd also need to speak to Naruko soon about her growing skills. Training begins. Once they reached a suitable clearing, Kakashi sat calmly on a tree stump. Today's lesson is tree climbing. We already know how to do that, Sakura said skeptically. Sasuke looked unimpressed, and Naruko simply smiled with quiet amusement. Kakashi rose and walked toward a tall tree. With practiced ease, he walked straight up the trunk, defying gravity with every step, while continuing to read from his book. The Genin gasped, all except Naruko, whose expression showed she had anticipated this. How are you doing that? Sasuke asked, clearly intrigued. Kakashi smiled behind his mask. It's all about chakra control. You must apply the precise amount of chakra to your feet to stick to the surface. Too much, and you'll repel yourself. Too little, and you'll slip. Mastering this can lead to greater control over future techniques. And what if someone already mastered this a long time ago? Naruko asked innocently. There's more? Sasuke asked, now intrigued. Oh, there's much more, Naruko replied with a grin. And I've already practiced all of it. Maybe I should try something more advanced. Kakashi raised an eyebrow. Where did you learn all this, Naruko? At the academy, you weren't exactly known for standing out academically. Yet you show great skill. Naruko beamed. I'm a Jinchuriki. That just means I'm destined to be amazing. Her teammates stumbled on the unusual word the blonde kunoichi used, whispering it under their breath in confusion, trying to grasp its meaning. Kakashi, meanwhile, was visibly surprised, his single eye widening in astonishment at how casually Naruko had revealed an extremely confidential matter. You do understand that's not the kind of secret you should just share aloud, right? Kakashi asked, raising an eyebrow. Why not? I'm proud to be Kurama's partner. And thanks to my incredible intellect, I've come to terms with what some people wrongly call a burden, Naruko replied, the last word clearly ironic. You mean to say your connection with the fox helped you learn chakra control exercises? Kakashi asked, clearly intrigued. Not exactly. It's more a result of my natural intelligence. I've always been fascinated by chakra theory, so I read every book I could find. Turns out, the seal had a surprising effect. I developed perfect chakra control. Yes, perfect, she added with confidence, noticing Kakashi was about to interject. Huh. Well, if that's true, I suppose I should be teaching you something even more advanced, Kakashi muttered thoughtfully. Then, his expression shifted as something clicked in his mind. So that's why you're able to move so swiftly. Perfect chakra control makes even complex taijutsu techniques easier to master. Exactly. I owe it all to my furry little friend, Naruko beamed, then winced as Kurama's indignant voice echoed in her mind. It sounded more like frustrated grumbling than actual words. All right then, I'll oversee your teammates' training, while my shadow clone takes care of you, our little genius, Kakashi smiled, ruffling Naruko's hair. A clone appeared beside her, motioning for her to follow. As the original Kakashi guided Sakura and Sasuke with kunai drills, the shadow clone and Naruko vanished into the nearby woods, eventually arriving at a peaceful clearing with a small stream. I think today we'll start with Shunshine. It's an essential movement technique for a shinobi, the clone said, tapping his chin thoughtfully. Before we begin the practical part, can you explain the theory behind it? Naruko asked, tilting her head with curiosity. Sure, if that's what you prefer, the clone replied, a bit surprised. You channel chakra to your legs and let some release from your back. You also leave behind a trail of chakra, though that part's mostly automatic when using hand seals. But I recommend starting with the seals, visualizing your destination helps. Actually, I think I've already figured it out, Naruko grinned. Then in a flash, she vanished and reappeared behind her teacher, leaving a glowing streak of chakra behind her. Kakashi's eyes widened in amazement. I've got a question, is chakra faster than light? Probably not, right? Do we know how much slower it is? Naruko asked, her mind already racing with new ideas. It's somewhere between 50 to 100 meters per second for advanced users. I don't know the exact numbers. Not really my specialty, Kakashi admitted. That's what I thought. Do you think chakra could be enhanced to reach the speed of light? Maybe with a unique bloodline ability. But it's just a theory, Kakashi shrugged. I'll find a way. I'm going to match my father's speed and then surpass it, Naruko declared enthusiastically. You know about your heritage? Kakashi was surprised. So the third told you, huh? Yes. And Kurama filled in a few gaps, Naruko said with a proud smile. That explains a lot. With your talent for learning techniques, you clearly take after your father, Kakashi said with genuine admiration. Maybe. But I'll surpass even the fourth. I want to be known for my own skills too, Naruko replied, determination shining in her eyes. Of course you will, Kakashi chuckled. I'm serious. Naruko pouted, but couldn't help smiling when her teacher laughed. And so, the days passed with Sakura and Sasuke working diligently on their chakra control, while Naruko continued mastering technique after technique, leaving even the gifted Uchiha trailing behind. Meanwhile, deep within, Kurama was unusually quiet. The negative emotions surrounding Naruko's rival amused him, especially the intensity of jealousy and frustration aimed at her. The Uchiha's feelings of helplessness, born from being overtaken by Naruko despite his years of training, reminded Kurama of stories he had heard about Itachi. Though he would never admit it aloud, Kurama felt genuine pride in Naruko's growth. He had once refused to acknowledge any form of admiration, but lately, he found himself silently cheering for her. On the fourth morning of training, Naruko woke up early and decided to start her own personal workout routine. As she entered a clearing to stretch and focus her chakra, she noticed a young person, seemingly familiar, collecting herbs. Kurama whispered in her mind, "It's her." Naruko paused, carefully masking her chakra signature. She leapt silently into the trees and observed from the shadows, aiming to approach unnoticed. As the ninja below hummed quietly, Naruko moved into position. Just as she readied to leap down and land near her, a sudden flick of motion revealed the girl's awareness. In a heartbeat, she flung senbone needles, forcing Naruko to teleport to the ground using sunshine to avoid them. Wow! That was impressive. When did you notice me? Naruko asked, standing casually but with her guard up. Before you entered the clearing, the ninja replied calmly. I'm Naruko Uzumaki, future Hokage of Konoha. And you are? She asked, smiling sincerely. Haku. A clone of Naruko suddenly appeared beside her and darted away to fetch Kakashi. Before Haku could respond, she launched another wave of senbone, narrowly missing Naruko and the clone. Whoa! That wasn't very polite. Naruko called out, chasing after Haku as she fled toward the bridge. The two arrived at the shoreline, and in a show of formidable skill, Haku created an awe-inspiring array of frozen weapons, swords, spears, and more, which rose from the water and hovered like an icy wall of artistry and power. I'm sorry, Haku whispered before sending the weapons toward Naruko in a coordinated strike. Naruko grinned. This is what makes training exciting. She quickly focused her chakra and called upon her wind nature. Wind style, great breakthrough. A storm of swirling wind burst outward from her, forming a protective barrier. Then, she snapped her fingers, igniting a small flame, which spun outward in a whirlwind of fire and air. The resulting storm slowed the weapons enough for Naruko to escape using sunshine, though a small scratch on her arm reminded her how close the attack had come. That was intense, she said, landing with a slight crouch. I almost got hurt. I didn't intend for it to go that far, Haku said quietly. But you did surprise me, Naruko said cheerfully. Knowing her time was short, Haku began forming hand seals using both hands simultaneously. Naruko grew tense. I can't risk letting her finish that technique, she thought, casting a genjutsu to slow Haku down. Inside the illusion, Haku found herself in an unfamiliar and clearly artificial world, making it obvious she was trapped in a genjutsu. To escape, she'd need to break the sequence of her jutsu, or endure pain to dispel it. Meanwhile, Naruko concealed herself in the treetops, placing another illusion over the first, a clever layer of strategy. Eventually, Haku completed her seals. Ice release, Twin Dragon Blizzard. Two massive ice dragons surged from the water, their frozen forms casting long shadows. The nearby workers gasped as the mythical creatures charged forward and collided with the earth, erupting in a shower of ice and sound that tore apart part of the forest. Naruko narrowly dodged the impact and hid again, safely out of Haku's line of sight. Haku sighed and turned to return to her mission, believing she had dealt with her opponent. Meanwhile, Kakashi and Naruko's clone arrived just as the effects of the battle began to settle. A wide scar marked the battlefield. "She's alive," Kakashi noted with a hint of relief. The clone scanned the area quickly, then called out. "Sensei, I found something." Carved into the tree was a message. "Following enemy. Stealth. No clones. Frown." Kakashi tilted his head at the crude depiction of a sad face etched into the bark with a kunai. The lines were jagged, as though done hastily. He gave a weary sigh, noting the unnecessary theatrics. "Well, now what?" Naruko's clone asked, plopping onto the ground. "Now," Kakashi said calmly, biting his thumb, summoning jutsu. Poof. A small pug emerged from the smoke, casually lifting a paw. "Yo. Hakun, I need your help locating my Jinan," Kakashi instructed. "Their scent should still be fresh, and there's another one with them. Track them both." Hakun sniffed the air and nodded with understanding. "One boy, one girl?" he asked, unbothered. "Not sure about the girl, but yes, follow the trail," Kakashi replied, motioning for the group to move out. Together, they slipped into the woods, pursuing Naruko and her mysterious companion, Haku. Meanwhile, Haku's energy was nearly depleted, but Naruko remained sharp and focused. Her chakra reserves were intact, and although she had minor scrapes, she was undeterred. Haku left behind a clumsy trail, crushed leaves, broken branches, which made it simple for Naruko to track her. Eventually, the trail led to a hidden cave, nestled among thick foliage. Haku entered swiftly, still clutching her medical herbs. "Zabuza-sama," she called with concern upon seeing the swordsman struggling to rise from his resting spot. "I didn't expect, what happened to you?" Zabuza asked, grimacing from discomfort. She was in a skirmish with me," Naruko said, appearing behind Haku, kunai poised but not threatening. Both Zabuza and Haku tensed. "I'm sorry," Haku whispered, lowering her gaze, tears forming. "What do you want?" Zabuza asked, straightforwardly. "If you're here for a reason, then speak." "I have one question," Naruko said calmly, not lowering her guard. "Why are you doing this?" Zabuza's eyes narrowed. "Money. It's how the world works." Naruko didn't flinch. "I understand that. But for what purpose? What would someone like you need so desperately?" "You guessed it. I plan to challenge the Mizukage," Zabuza admitted bluntly. "And at what cost? You're willing to let an entire nation suffer just for that?" Naruko said, her voice strong but respectful. "I have another idea," she continued. "What if we take down Gato instead? He's harming this village and hiding behind business ties. We eliminate his influence, split the funds, half goes to the Wave village, and the rest to you. You can still pursue your goal, but without causing further chaos." She extended her hand in good faith. "And when you accomplish it, I'd like to propose an alliance between Kiri and Konoha. The Wave would benefit economically as well. We'll leave the finer terms to our leaders." Zabuza blinked, then gave a slow, amused laugh. "You're smart, kid. I'll give you that." He clasped her hand in a firm grip. "Deal." "What's this deal about?" Kakashi said, having just arrived. Naruko turned, startled. "Sensei. I was just." "Explain," Kakashi said, but his tone was less stern than expected. Naruko quickly outlined her idea. Kakashi listened attentively, then gave a thoughtful nod. "It's a bold plan. I'm impressed." Naruko blinked. "Wait. You're not mad?" "I was testing you," Kakashi admitted. "And you passed. I had a shadow clone watching the whole exchange. You showed strategic thinking and diplomacy. I'll recommend your promotion to Chonin." Naruko stared in disbelief. Click. Kakashi snapped a photo with his embarrassing moments camera, chuckling to himself as Naruko gaped like a fish. As they returned to Tazuna's home, Naruko gradually recovered from the shock of her apparent promotion. When she burst through the door, she announced, "I made Chonin." Kakashi tapped her on the head lightly. "No need to shout." "Okay, sensei." "Hey, Sasuke," she began, only to be elbowed lightly in the side by Kakashi. She groaned. "Not so rough." He simply strolled on, book in hand. Naruko muttered something inaudible under her breath and walked into the living room. The air was oddly tense, and even their hosts noticed. The conversation halted, and the awkwardness lingered well into the mission's final days. Eventually, the Hokage approved Naruko's plan. Team 7 trained and stood guard over the bridge as it neared completion. Then, at last, they received word, Zabuza was ready. The final phase began in the early morning. Konoha spread quiet whispers of a liberation mission. Curious villagers gathered, ready to witness what they hoped would be a turning point. Team 7, Zabuza, and Haku assembled on a hill with a clear view of Gato's mansion. Kakashi, as always, had his book out. Zabuza chuckled. "You trained them well." Even Haku cracked a small smile. Then, silence fell. "I suppose this is a bit much for a basic mission," Kakashi mused. "But it's a good learning experience." Sakura gasped. "You don't mean?" "This is the life you chose," Zabuza said bluntly. Naruko turned to Sakura. "You're my friend. I promise I'll protect you. But you have to understand, there are moments when decisions like this determine everything. It's not about choosing violence, it's about standing up to wrong." Sakura trembled, but nodded. "Let's move," Zabuza declared as the group charged. The outer defenses were light, and they quickly advanced to the mansion. A startled Gato emerged, clearly alarmed. "Stop them," he ordered, his voice shrill. The mercenaries hesitated. Zabuza sprinted ahead with expert agility, disarming and outmaneuvering the guards with practiced skill. The Genin team stared in awe at his precision. "Go," Kakashi whispered to Naruko. "You know what to do." She nodded, chakra boosted her legs, and soared over the crowd. Meanwhile, Sasuke and Sakura engaged cautiously. Kakashi and Haku remained close, ready to support. Naruko, guided by her senses, tracked Gato to the far side of the estate. In the midst of navigating lavish corridors, she stumbled upon Zabuza engaged in a friendly duel with two skilled swordsmen. "Sorry, kid," he called mid-swing. "They challenged me, had to accept." Naruko nodded, understanding, and continued on until she found Gato trying to escape. With a swift move, she blocked his path. "Wait. Please." Gato pleaded. Naruko's eyes narrowed. "Where are the funds?" "The bank, just please don't hurt me." "Good. You'll come with me," she said, clapping a pair of imaginary cuffs on him, a clever genjutsu trick. "We'll walk." Zabuza passed by, covered in dust and sweat. "Taking the scenic route?" "Just ensuring justice is served," Naruko replied playfully, patting Gato's head. They reached the front of the estate where the rest of the group was waiting. Gato was escorted to a secure location. As they departed, Kakashi and Sasuke used a controlled fire technique to dismantle the property, a symbolic end to Gato's influence. Weeb village was free. The people were grateful, the economy had a chance to recover, and Naruko, now a Chonin, had proven her leadership. Team 7 had grown, not just in strength, but in understanding the true meaning of duty. Their journey would continue, but for now, peace had returned. On their journey back, they encountered astonished villagers, who, upon recognizing the young heroine, lit up with joy. Smiles broke across their faces, and some embraced each other warmly, while a few hurried toward the village to spread the news of their return. Kakashi and Naruko shared a confident smile and waved to the people. Sasuke remained composed with his arms crossed, and Sakura and Haku each carried a calm, satisfied expression. Zabuza maintained his usual alert gaze, scanning the surroundings attentively as though still guarding against unseen threats. As they arrived at the village, the streets were lined with cheering citizens, forming two enthusiastic rows. The once quiet town now roared with celebration. Gato, walking quietly amidst the crowd, could only bow his head as the townsfolk expressed their disdain for his past actions. Though he said nothing aloud, it was clear from his expression that he harbored resentment, vowing silently to regain his standing in some way. The village no longer resembled the dispirited place the group had first seen just a week earlier. Hope and life had returned to its streets. Eventually, they arrived at a surprisingly well-maintained building, the town's bank, where Gato reluctantly transferred all of his wealth. Half was donated to the people of the Wave country, and the other half was given to Zabuza, to support his independent cause. Upon exiting, they found the cheering had not subsided, the town was truly uplifted. Gato sighed, lifting his arms dramatically. At last, I'm free, he declared loudly, wanting everyone to hear. Wave, mark my words, I'll be back. And then I'll. Before he could continue, Naruko stepped forward. Calm and composed, she fixed him with a firm gaze. You've had your say, Gato. It's time to move forward. This village no longer fears you. Sasuke, understanding her unspoken resolve, stepped beside her and with a small technique sent a harmless flicker of fire into the air, symbolic and harmless, more dramatic than dangerous. There were gasps at first from the crowd, but realization soon replaced confusion. The people began to applaud, not for any act of retaliation, but for the peaceful resolution of a chapter that had held them in fear. Gato, under escort, was quietly removed from the village. A new dawn for the Wave. With Gato's influence gone, Wave country slowly began to rebuild. The community reclaimed control of its trade and resources, and for the first time in years, families enjoyed stability and hope for the future. The bridge connecting them to the mainland was finally completed, a lasting symbol of unity and progress. It represented the end of uncertainty and the beginning of renewed prosperity. Zabuza and Haku departed the following day, setting off toward their homeland with determination. Zabuza believed it was time to create positive change in his village, working for peace and reform in the face of the ongoing unrest under the current Mizukage's leadership. Before leaving, he exchanged parting words with Naruko. Feel free to join our efforts, if you're ever interested, he said with a smirk that hinted at a challenge. Naruko smiled brightly. Of course I will. You didn't think I'd let you do all the important work without me, did you? She replied playfully. Zabuza chuckled and waved as he disappeared into the trees. See you there then, Naruko. You bet. And I'm not a kid, she shouted back with a grin. Their remaining time in Wave was peaceful. As the team finally turned to leave, they heard a familiar voice ring out behind them. Yes. I'll name it. The Great Naruko Bridge. Kazuna called out with a wide grin. Naruko flinched slightly at the unexpected honor, but couldn't help smiling as she walked on. Her very first monument, dedicated to her. A moment to remember, indeed. Dear YouTube subscribers. That's all for now, I appreciate you taking the time to watch. If you enjoyed the content, please like, share, and subscribe to stay connected and support the channel. Thank you for being part of the journey. 6 Path Weeb.